In this topic, we are able to choose the correct order of mineral uptake across the plasma membrane within a plant cell wall. Other than that, we are also able to describe the mutualistic relationship that assists plants in acquiring nutrients from the soil.
The first way for water and mineral uptake across a plant cell is through pathway of water and minerals. This pathway is specialized for water and dissolved minerals. So there are two main ways that water and dissolved minerals can enter a root. The first one is pathway A. From the diagram, we can see that water and minerals can travel via porous cell walls, but then must enter endodermal cells because of the Casparian strip. Water flows between cells, diffusing one cell's porous wall to the cell walls of adjacent cells. The Casparian strip, which is a waxy layer that surrounds endodermal cells, prevents water from passing through the cell wall. Hence, water is pushed into endodermal cells through the plasma membrane. Meanwhile, for pathway B, water and mineral can enter root hair and move from cell to cell. Water travels from the plasma membrane of one cell to the plasma membrane of another cell that is connected by opening called plasmodesmata. When the osmosis pressure in the root tissue is lower than the soil solution, water enters the root cells. If there is more water outside the root and less water inside the root, then water moves in by osmosis, which is causing the osmosis pressure.
Now, we are going to talk about the transport of minerals across an endodermal plasma membrane. We know that plants absorb minerals in ionic form, like nitrogen absorbed as nitrate ion and potassium as potassium ion. But these ions cannot cross the plasma membrane because of the non-polar portion of the lipid bilayer. So, they need the help of carrier proteins and channel proteins. Since the concentration of mineral is higher inside of the cell than outside of the cell, the energy is needed to go against the concentration gradient. So when energy is needed, it is called the active transport. The transport works from the establishment of an electrochemical gradient. These are the proton pump. The proton pump hydrolyzes ATP and uses the energy released to transport hydrogen ions out of the cell. The result is an electrochemical gradient that drives positively charged ions through a channel protein into the cell. Negatively charged mineral ions are transported along with hydrogen ions by these carrier proteins without any energy.
Okay, next I will presenting adaptation of roots. Plants absorb water from the soil by osmosis. They absorb mineral ions by active transport against the concentration gradient. Root hair cells are adapted for taking up water and mineral ions by having a large surface area to increase the rate of absorption. They also contain lots of mitochondria which release energy from glucose during respiration in order to provide the energy needed for active transport. In this topic, there will be two mutualistic relationships, which is with rhizobia and mycorrhizae. I will explain mutualistic relationship with rhizobia. So rhizobia is the most common types of symbiosis occur between various genera of bacteria collectively. Rhizobia in a mutualistic relationship with bacteria and also root nodules. it will associated with the formation of root nodules on nitrogen-fixing bacteria. When we talk about nitrogen-fixing bacteria, it will be related to nitrogen fixation. So what is nitrogen fixation? Nitrogen fixation is an energy-intensive process that requires special conditions, which is anaerobic environment for bacteria's enzyme. Nitrogen fixation is also the process whereby molecular nitrogen gas is converted to reactive, biologically available forms of nitrogen.
Now, I'll be explaining to you about the mutualistic relationship of mycorrhizae with fungi. So, you may have heard the term mycorrhizal fungi, but what exactly they are? Myco comes from the Latin word for fungus, and rhiza is Greek for root. These fungus roots can be greatly beneficial to gardeners. Mycorrhizae fungi belong to the same group as mushrooms, the fungus kingdom. The mushroom is similar to an apple. It is the fruiting body of a larger organism. But rather than growing from a tree, the mushroom is formed from the interconnected network of root-like tubes called hyphae. Plants and fungi forms a symbiotic or mutually beneficial relationship between each other. The plants give the fungi sugar that they produce through photosynthesis. In exchange, the fungi gives the plants water that they extract from the soil. 80 to 95% of land plants benefit from some type of mycorrhizal relationship. So, what does this mean for gardeners? Let's say you plant a seed in soil without any mycorrhizal fungi. The plant roots will go out in search of nutrients and water to feed its growth. As available resources are used up in one area, the roots grow further and further out, expending more and more of the plant's energy. Now, let's introduce some mycorrhizal spores. The plant sends signal out to any mycorrhizal fungi in that area, and the spores respond by growing hyphae in the direction of the signal. If a spore is able to find the roots of the plant, the hyphae will penetrate the root and begin to grow structures that allow for the plant and the fungi to exchange resources. The mycorrhizal fungi will now begin to grow excessive cotton ball-like mass that will give the plant access not only to the nutrients and water outside the reach of the fruits, but since the hyphae is so small, they can access nutrients in small spaces between the roots as well. So, let me summarize what is it all about. First, the spore of the mycorrhizal fungi germinate in the soil and make their way to the nearest roots. The roots are then colonized by the fungi and mycorrhiza are established. The fungi penetrate the root and create an internal network of fungal structures inside the root cells, where the plant and mycorrhizae exchange sugars and nutrients. Finally, the hyphae continue to develop outside the roots, forming an extended network of fine filaments, which cover up to 700 times more soil area than the plant's own roots. This secondary root system draws in extra beneficial nutrients and water, supporting a plant or tree for its entire lifetime.
And that brings us to the end. Thank you so much for your interest and attention. Feel free to ask any question to us.